Ever wonder if living in a homeowners association is like a country club, or maybe it's more like living in a prison? Well, stick around. Today we're going to talk about all things homeowners associations, where the grass is always greener, but the rules just might make you pull your hair out. What's up, everybody? It's Kristen Weller here with the Iremonger Group, and this is Life in Navarre. Today we're going to dive deep into homeowners associations. We're going to go over the good, the bad, the ugly. Over the years, I've heard a lot of my clients' experiences, them living in different HOA communities throughout the country, and it's really fun for me to hear some of this stuff because some of it's been awesome and some of it's like, ooh, that's really strict. So we're going to dive deep into it today. We're going to go over pros and cons. I'm going to take you around some of the bigger HOA communities around here, so you can kind of see like what the amenities are as opposed to how much the fees are. We're even going to step into one that's optional. So let's get to it. So I first wanted to kind of quickly go over exactly what an HOA is. So basically, once upon a time when the community was first built, the builders or the developers decided they were going to have some rules and regulations set into place and form a homeowners association. So sometimes you'll hear them called HOAs, which is what I normally call them. I've also heard people call them HOAs. So it's kind of, I haven't heard any other kind of slang words for it or anything like that, but those are kind of the big ticket ones, if you will. But to be an HOA, you do need to have a board of directors. So you've got a president, a vice president, secretary, a treasurer. Sometimes there's committees involved as well. A lot of times in our area, they're actually managed by like a property management company, kind of, sort of. It's not the same as like you would think of for a short-term rental property manager, but it's more of like an HOA manager. So that's what you see kind of down here. Those committees that they'll have, sometimes it'll be like a fines committee, landscape, if you want to call it that. It's basically someone making sure the yards are kept up, an architectural review board. So if you wanted to paint your house pink, you'd have to let the architectural review board know and give a sample of the color, those kinds of things, and then they can yay or nay it. We've had to do that with the fence before, things like that. So as a general whole, you've got rules and regulations that are set into place. There's fines set forth, like what those fines specifically are when you get served. Like sometimes you'll get a warning first, then you get the fine. But those things are all set into place in your rules and regulations documents. Sometimes there'll be covenants. Sometimes I call them that. They are different things, but depending on how the HOA is set up, they'll have that. You'll always have the articles of incorporation and your declaration and things like that. And then sometimes you'll even have a document called a FAQs. So it's basically like just what it says, frequently asked questions that either buyers or homeowners have asked over the years, and they kind of take all the information from the big documents that you're supposed to read everything through and kind of put it concisely in more cut and dry type things. So generally with those kinds of things, you're going to know if there's regulations against short-term rentals, regulations against how many pets you can have, what the payment schedules are, because sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's annually, sometimes it's quarterly, just things like that. Okay, so let's go over the pros and cons. Pros are going to be pretty obvious. Number one is going to be the aesthetics of the community. For the most part, you're going to see, kept up grass, nice lawn care, nice landscaping. The homes themselves are going to be nice and clean without, mildew and things growing on them. For the most part, so you're going to see that solid look of the community throughout all the homes. Number two is going to be amenities. So while not all HOAs have amenities, if you want a neighborhood that does have a community pool or a walking path or sound access, I would say 99% of the time, those are going to be in your HOA communities. Number three is going to be property values. Because there's those stricter rules in place with how people are supposed to keep their home and things like that, generally speaking, your property values are going to at least stay consistent, if not, keep on the rise, maybe be a little bit more valuable than some of the homes that are not in HOAs. Number four is just that community feel. Usually you're going to have people that are, more in tune with what's going on in their neighborhood, maybe because they're trying to snitch on you, but it also could be because there's more community events planned, like those the community yard sales or a neighborhood barbecue or things like that. So as a general whole, HOAs, you're going to get a little bit more of that community feel. And then the fifth pro is conflict mediation. So because there's so many rules set in place as to how people are supposed to, kind of manage their property, keeping their grass nice and short, keeping those garbage cans in, you can't have them on the street for too long, those kinds of things. In general, your neighbors aren't going to get mad if your yard's overgrown because it's not supposed to be. I guess that, hopefully that makes sense. But as a general rule, because there's so many rules in place, you have a less likely chance of making your neighbors mad if you do something wrong. So, all right. So now let's go over the cons, which is why a lot of people just say they're anti-HOA. So number one, it's obvious. That costs money to be in an HOA. Sometimes those dues can get kind of exorbitant. Sometimes, if there's special assessments or things like that, they can hit you with surprising fees, things like that. So, that's kind of the big hitter there is financially, they are more expensive to live in an HOA than it is to not. Number two, again, the rules and regulations. If you don't want to have those strict parents, if you don't want to have, big brother watching over you, then it's not the place for you, because there are, like we talked about kind of before, the neighbors that are watching to make sure you're keeping up with your stuff. In a community that's not an HOA, the only one that can do that is the town or county that you live in. For example, where I live now, there's not an HOA, and the house that's kind of diagonal for me, the county actually came by one day and was like, your yard was unkept, things like that. So they kind of got in trouble. They got a warning, but if they didn't take care of it, they would have gotten in trouble. But that was a county thing, not an HOA thing. So a lot of people don't think that their cities or their towns or counties have say-so in those things, but they do. So keep those in mind too. But, like we talked about, number two con is all the rules and regulations. So number three is kind of to counterbalance number five as a pro. Because there's no rules in place, you can get neighbors that are mad at you. So in that situation I just gave with my across the street neighbor, I don't think any of my neighbors ratted on him, but they could have. So it could have been they were just sick and tired of looking at it, or maybe they were getting a lot of rodents and snakes in their yard because their grass wasn't kept up. So things like that, if they called the county, now you've kind of got some conflict there that nobody really is in charge of to mediate. Whereas at an HOA, you can go straight to the HOA board and it's covered. The con is you could have ticked off neighbors. So number four is a lack of flexibility with an HOA. So because there are so many rules and regulations, let's say you wanted to put a 4-foot garden gnome that was pink and purple and blue out in your front yard. Well, if there are rules against certain decor items, you might get warning and then have to take it away and put it in your backyard or something like that. So the con with the HOA is just that if they're not abiding by and living within those rules that are set forth, you might not be able to express yourself creatively. And then the fifth one, the con for HOAs, is that there are fines and penalties. So if you are breaking the rules, or maybe you're fed up with a couple rules, and to try to stick it to people, you're trying to paint your house pink and not get the okay from the architectural board, well, there's going to be repercussions for that, unfortunately. So you might get warning, and if you don't fix it, then you're going to get a fine. Same thing with garbage cans. If you break that rule multiple times, they are going to fine you. So along with number one con was that there are, fees involved. There's more fees involved if you break those rules. All right, so just a reminder, I am a real estate agent. I am here in Navarre, but I service the whole Panhandle. I tell you this not only because if you're looking to buy or sell, all of my information will be on the screen somewhere, but also because I've seen one too many buyers and or sellers get hit with, oh, I didn't know there was an HOA, or, oh, I thought the HOA was defunct and now I'm set up with this big bill when I go to closing because I haven't paid my dues in 2 years. It's crazy. So I personally had a seller that they thought that the HOA had disbanded because they weren't getting any more notices in the mail that their HOAs were due. It was an annual due, and they would get it sent to them. Well, they weren't getting that anymore. Well, come to find out, they were renting their home out, and the tenant was actually paying that for them, which is amazing and super great, and you don't hear that too often. But when we went to go sell it, she didn't know that the HOA was still going on. I had asked other agents that had listings in that neighborhood because I couldn't get a hold of the property manager for that HOA. And some people said, no, there's no HOA. Some people said there was. So even amongst the homeowners, there was a lot of just misinformation and nobody knew what was going on. So luckily, we figured it out. I was calling the HOA every other day to try to get a hold of them, and I finally did, and there was an HOA that was live and well. So that seller lucked out, but I have heard other agents have experiences where they didn't find out that there is an HOA until the week of closing, and that buyer really did not want to live in an HOA. So it was a hard discussion that they either had to walk away, and there's things in the contract as safety nets, but they all have deadlines, so kind of keep those things in mind. And that's when having an agent that, one, knows what they're doing, knows the area, so they can kind of see like, hey, this house isn't an HOA, or this house isn't, or whatever. But having that knowledgeable agent by your side helping you through the process is what I'm getting at here by reminding you that I'm a real estate agent. But, have someone you trust that you can count on, that's going to do the due diligence for you if you're not going to do it yourself, to know that, what you're buying and where it's at and what the rules are and what the fees are and all that good stuff. So, all right, so let's go take a look at some local HOAs. There's a couple of different communities in this area, so you can kind of get to know what some of the fees are, what they offer as far as amenities, some of the rules and regs and stuff like that. Let's go take a look. Before we get started though, I want to hear from you guys. Comment down below if you have lived in an HOA and they had super crazy rules, like what's your craziest rule you had to abide by, or what are some funny stories or some horror stories. Like, I'd love to hear from you guys, because it's kind of interesting across the nation what different areas have for rules. So comment down below, let me hear them. So now I'm in Biscayne Point. This neighborhood is another one that's in East Navarre. It's across from the big Walmart. So there's a lot of attraction as far as location, but this one has sound access. So for only, and I'm gonna cheat and look at my notes because I just immediately forgot, $440 for the year, that's how much the HOA dues are. You get the, comfort of knowing that your neighbors are always gonna have to keep their yard up to a certain standard, but you also get access to the sound. So this one, and I'm going to take you over here in a second, you can see 4th of July fireworks if you're lucky enough to get a spot early on, because there are a couple hundred homes in this neighborhood, and you'll see in a second here that the sound access, there's a little pavilion, but it's not huge. It's not going to house all 400 families over here, but you'll be able to see. It's super cool. You can throw a kayak in the water, you can throw a paddleboard in the water, and it's awesome. So let's go check it out. So as we're walking over here, a couple things. There's not super crazy restrictions here. Obviously they want to make sure that the houses are all kept in good order. No one's doing any crazy colors, although you will see a couple aqua colored houses, but for the most part, people keep their homes up really nice. And this is the main attraction, like I said. So you've got this little marshy area here. They do have a lot of community involvement though. So they'll do yard sales, like community yard sales. I think they do it twice a year, but it might just be once. But during Sally, there was a lot of damage to this pier right here. And they had a lot of owners come together and just get it done, which is really nice because, hiring companies to do these kinds of things can cost a lot more money. So instead of having everybody, raise their dues, people got together and figured it out. I did have a couple of friends that lived here, and they have said that the HOA community is pretty active. People actually go to the meetings, and if they need stuff to be voted on, it gets voted on, it gets worked out. So it is almost 11 o'clock, so we're reaching high tide. Normally when I'm out here in the afternoon, there's a little bit more of a beach area, but it's just, I don't know if you can see underneath the water coming in there. It was just really cool. If you lived here, you could come out here for like a lunch break if you work from home and just listen to the water. All right, so first up is Holley by the Sea. Now, if you have started looking in Navarre at all, I'm sure you've seen a couple homes pop up that were in Holley by the Sea. It is the biggest HOA community in Navarre, and possibly in the Panhandle. Don't quote me on that though. But they have a ton of amenities for only $505 for the year. A couple things to keep in mind before I start going over the actual list of amenities. I have lots of clients and friends that live in Holley by the Sea, and it's kind of a love-hate thing. So they love all the amenities. They love that as a general rule, they're half-acre lots. You've got bigger lots, you're kind of spread out, things like that. But it kind of depends on your neighbors as to how strict the HOA is. So things that I've heard is basically, you've got neighbors that are keeping their yard up in pristine condition, and they will snitch on you the minute your grass is 3 inches long. And then other times I hear people saying like, oh, our street, we can have our boat out in the driveway for a week and no one will say anything. Which is, I bring that up because it's a rule. You can only have your boat or RV in your driveway while you're loading, unloading. So it's basically like a 24-hour window. And then you can't store it on your driveway. It has to be behind your fence. So like I said, it kind of depends on how strict your neighbors are as to how strict the rules are enforced. But they do have people that will drive around patrolling. I've never gotten a set schedule on that. And it does seem, just based on friends and clients talking, that they kind of patrol similar areas. So I'm guessing, because it does make them money when they get fines, that they're kind of patrolling the areas that are more commonly getting in trouble and breaking rules. So kind of keep all of those things in mind, but at the same time, take it with a grain of salt, because those are experiences that I've heard from other people. It's not my personal experience. It is a huge neighborhood. So, and with people moving in and out all the time, like those things can all change, but there are set rules, and, some of them are a little bit stricter than others. So it's just something you need to keep in mind. So here are their amenities, and then I'm going to go over two big, I'll say controversial rules after that. All right, I'm going to cheat and look at my notes because they do have a ton of things that they offer. So Holley by the Sea amenities, they have 8 clay tennis courts. They have a beach house that you can rent out. That's actually pretty big, and it's you can fit a lot of people in there, so it's kind of cool. And there's a little gate. So when you come to Holley by the Sea, they have the clubhouse, if you will, on the south side of the street. And then for the beach house that you can rent out for parties, you actually have to go through another gate. So if you rent that out, you get the code for that, and nobody else is supposed to be able to get through there. So it's nice because it's quiet and reserved. They do have RV and tent camping, if you will. They have 10 RV spots and 6 tent sites. You do have to reserve those. There's a lap pool and a family pool and a baby pool. There's a full weight room and cardio. So in the clubhouse, there's actually after school care as well. And then there's summer programs, but there's a huge gym basically in there. And it's pretty, so from people that I know that have used it, they love it because they don't have to go get another gym membership, and they have a ton of equipment in there. And for the most part, you're not really having to wait on a bunch of stuff because it is so, like, they have a ton of machines in there. They have a volleyball court, a ball field, tennis courts, a basketball court, and then, like I said, they do offer some after-school activities, before-school activities. They offer swim lessons, but all of those things, you have to be a resident of Holley by the Sea. They do not sell memberships, so only Holley by the Sea owners can use those facilities. I've heard people going in to buy cheap lots, like lots that you really can't build on because there's wetlands and things like that, for $50,000, $60,000 because they live in Navarre, but they want to use those facilities. So that's a way to kind of get around the system. I mean, you're still paying the HOA dues on that lot, so just keep that in mind, but that's a workaround. Okay, so now the two controversial topics that I've been hearing a lot about Holley by the Sea. Number one is Chicken Gate, which is what I'm calling it. So up to about a year ago, you could have chickens on your property. There was no rules about roosters, no rules about any of that stuff, no rules about how many chickens you could have, but you could have chickens on your property. Well, about a year ago, people started complaining because of either the noise or like we have bears here, so they try to find the chickens and then process their breaking down fences and whatnot, maybe because of the smells and the flies, I don't know, but there were some people that were complaining. So now, if you already had chickens before this new rule was set in place, you are grandfathered in, but once your chickens are gone, they're gone. You can't keep having them, basically. And then if you're a new buyer, you cannot have chickens. So it was kind of like, it wasn't funny to the people that had the chickens, but it was funny at the time because, especially for Christmas time, there was these chicken inflatable, like Christmas inflatables that, like, it was a giant chicken and it would have like a scarf and like a little Santa hat, and all the people that were pro chickens had those in their front yards. So it was kind of funny. But it was a serious issue because people had, I had some friends that had chickens there and they didn't want to get rid of them. They loved their chickens. But now you cannot have chickens in Holley by the Sea if you're a new buyer. The second thing that has been controversial, actually I'll give you 3, but the second thing that's most recently been controversial has been with short-term rentals. So I've not heard one way or the other just yet if they've come to an agreement on anything, but they're really trying to push out short-term rentals. And like I said before, I think that's going to be an issue going forward in the next 6 months to a couple of years, that a lot of the HOAs are going to start pushing those out. Just because it can disrupt your life being a primary owner, because you're more than likely working through Monday through Friday, and when people are coming to visit, they're not. So more than likely, they might be a little bit louder or a little less concerning of their neighbors. So I do think that's going to be an issue going forward with a lot of HOAs, but specifically for Holley by the Sea, it has become a big issue. And then the third one that I'm adding on is you're not allowed to have a work vehicle or any kind of work signs on your property. So for me as a real estate agent, if I have a sticker or like a magnet or something on the side of my vehicle that's got my face and my number and I'm a real estate agent, technically I need to take off those magnets if my car is parked in the driveway of my Holley by the Sea home. Same for if you work for, like, say, Brian Pest Control. You know, you drive the big Brian Pest Control van, you're allowed to take it home. You're not allowed to park that in the driveway unless you cover it up. So those are a couple of things that are considered stricter rules, because the magnet on the side of your car, you know, it's considered advertising. So, like, I get it, but that was been controversial in the years past. I haven't heard it come up too much lately, and driving around, I'll see work trucks every now and then, but it is a rule. So if your neighbors kind of get ticked with different things, just have to know all the rules. So another HOA in our community is the Meadows. It is in East Navarre, off of Whispering Pines. It is a Whitworth builder community where all the homes are all by the same builder, and it's a cool little neighborhood. One thing to keep in mind with this HOA is that there's no amenities. So at $400 a year, it's basically there to make sure that everyone kind of upstands the same look and feel of their home, that they're submitting, to the architectural review, if they're going to make changes to the house, if it's allowed or not, those kinds of things. So we're going to go through this house right here, which is a really great example of a Whitworth home in the Meadows. Let's get to it. All right, so we are at 2311 Meadow Mist Court. This is a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home listed at $515, and we wanted to say thank you to Southern Ventures. Miss Shelby over there is letting us feature this beautiful listing. Let's get to it. All right, so most of these homes have 3-car garage. It's kind of one of the things that Whitworth is known for. They are almost all single story. There are a couple 2 stories on the kind of edges of the community, if you will. This one is a cul-de-sac. And then you'll see they all have brick mailboxes. So again, that's another thing that would be, if you wanted to change your mailbox out, you would have to ask the HOA. So Whitworth builders, you're going to hear them a lot on my channel just because they are pretty prevalent in Navarre. I actually own a Whitworth build. There's a lot of great builders around here. This just happens to be one of them. So you've got these really nice tall doors in this floor plan and a huge front porch. So for all of you that like to decorate for the holidays like I do, this would be a fun little spot to do that. All right, so this particular floor plan, like I said, is a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, but it's got some really cool bonus features that we're going to show you. All right, so this is, it's called a tri-split. So you've got your master bedroom here, you've got bedrooms that way, and then you've got a bedroom that way. You've got a formal dining here, if you wanted to use it as such, but you've got these nice arches. And one of the things that Whitworth also is kind of known for are these rounded corners, which is kind of cool. And then this floor plan has an office in the front as well. This seller has installed some really nice features here with these shelves. And then you've got what I call the doggy windows. So they don't have to get up on the windowsill to see out. So you've got a nice, spacious, open floor plan. Tall ceilings with some recessed lighting, and then the big bay of doors to the backyard. Huge master. Lots of natural light. And they've got some crown molding as well, and then a door out to the backyard. So if you ever did want to put a pool in, that would be a really easy way to come back in and get dried off. So you've got a slider closet and then a walk-in. And then dual vanities. Nice garden tub. And then a stand-up shower. And this is one thing, so in this community, you will see some that have walk-in tile showers and others that have the insert style. And then your water closet. We'll go outside last. But your kitchen is huge. So you've got an eat-in area here. And then you've got all of this cabinet space. They do have both under cabinet lights and above cabinet lights, which is a nice touch. So if you just wanted to leave some ambient light on out here while you were watching TV in the other room, you know, you can put that on and it gives enough light. And this huge island that's got storage on either side. And then you do still have a pantry. And then they kind of decked out their light up top, which is nice. So here's one of the extra little spots. So this would be awesome if you had teenage kids. It could be a game room. If you had little toddlers, it could be a playroom. If you had older kids, you could just use it as like their little living room, so that you wouldn't have to watch the same, you know, teenage TV shows as they do. Or you could even, if you really wanted to, you could wall it off into another bedroom. You would take away some of the lighting into here, but you know, it's another option. You could easily make it a 5-bedroom. So here's your first bedroom. It's good size. Got nice natural light coming from the window, and then just a standard closet. But you do still have that crown molding at the top. And then this door goes to the outside. So again, if you did have a pool, because there is tile here, and then they've got a bathroom here, we call it a cabana bath. So it's really close to the backyard so that people don't have to, you know, go through the house all wet. So another bedroom, again, good size bedroom. And then same closet. And then you have another closet too, a linen closet. So we've got 2 bedrooms down and a bonus space. We have the master bedroom down. Let's go check out the laundry and the other bedroom. So they put in some extra cabinets. And then huge garage. So you've got pull down stairs for the attic, and then anything from this wall that way is extra space. So it's pretty awesome. And those tubes over there, I know we talk about it a lot, but those are the fabric for your hurricane protection for your windows. So that kind of protection is actually super easy because it's a lot less weight than the big boards. So here's another bathroom. And then your final bedroom. So all in all, like I said, Whitworth builds really spacious, thoughtful floor plans. And that's what you're going to find in this community. There's a bunch of different floor plans here. I don't remember how many homes are in this neighborhood. I want to say around 200 or so. It's a decent sized neighborhood, but like I said, your amenity for what you're paying for your HOA dues is just that it's keeping it really nice, and you know, all the homes are kept up. They're all brick homes with maybe some siding board accents, hardy board accents, I should say, as the siding. And they're all like craftsman style. And like I said, they're mostly 1-story homes. There's a couple 2-story homes kind of on the outskirts of the neighborhood. The streets are really wide, and for trick-or-treating here, it's awesome. And then driving through at Christmas time for all the decorations is pretty cool too. But yeah, this is the Meadows. All right, so we are driving around Robledal Estates. This HOA is actually quite interesting. So it is actually optional. It is not required when you purchase a house here they will let you know that there is an HOA here. However, you are not required to have to pay dues every year. If you want to, it's $417 a year. There are no rules and regulations for your home, for your property, but it does get you access to, there's a boat launch, and then there's like a little bay, like a beach area along the bay. So it's kind of more like a club. They do have a board of directors. That's why they can say they're an HOA. They have every Friday, I guess, they get together in the little access point and have like horseshoes and just little get-togethers. And then sometimes they'll do like little cleanups and stuff for their access point and gardening and things like that. But like I said, it's more like a club. So one of the reasons why I think they're allowed to call themselves an HOA is, like I said, they do have a board. So they've got, a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, that kind of stuff. But they do require you to live in one of 3 communities, and Robledal Estates is one of them. So it is unique in that, like I said, it's optional. And if you did want to have a boat launch that's close to your home for $417 a year, it's not too bad. You can always go to the beach and pop it in there, like on Navarre Beach by Juana's. You can always use a boat launch there, and there's a couple other boat launches around as well. But if you wanted something a little closer to home, sorry, there was a dog. It was adorable. So if you wanted something a little closer to your house, that's an option. That's actually pretty awesome. So that's Robledal Estates. And while we're here, we're going to take a quick look at 7060 Lago Mirada. Okay, so this is 7060 Lago Mirada. It is a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home. It is another one that's kind of a tri-split. So I'll show you that again. It's got 3-car garage in Robledal Estates, just like we kind of talked about, and it's listed at $425. So this house is huge. It's a great floor plan. The owners have taken immaculate care of this property. You've got solar, so if you like the idea of having green kind of energy, you've got that going for the house. The windows and doors are all wind resistant, so if a hurricane ever comes, you don't have to put up your the big boards or anything like that, because they are all wind resistant. But look at this kitchen. It is huge. You've got solid surface counters, tons of space. And this is probably one of my favorite features of this house, this little like garden window. I love this. And then it's right over the sink. So if you're washing your dishes and you want to watch the birds or whatever out there, it's pretty awesome. It's a really big lot as far as like backyard space. You've got tons of space to put a pool back here, or playground or whatever. If you've got dogs, there's tons of space to run around. And then this huge, huge back porch. But it's so serene here. This neighborhood is really awesome because they kept a lot of vegetation. So, you've got, there's a lot of like barriers, I guess you could say, against your neighbors. But if you look in between those trees and the little, it looks like it's white, that is the bay. So while this home is not on the water or anything like that, there are no water views. You are super close to the water. So if you go down this hallway, you're gonna get your guest bedrooms. But if you come down here, you're gonna see your huge owner's suite. So, it's huge. You could put 2 king-size beds in here if you want to. There is a door to the backyard. You have a walk-in closet. And then your bathroom, garden tub. And one thing that I actually love about this too is that you've got skylights. So I always, when I'm coming around this house, if I do open houses or whatever, I always feel like the lights are still on, but they're not. It's just because there's all that natural light from the skylights. And then got your, whoops, forgot to turn the light on. 1 second. There we go. So good size laundry. And then it is a 3-car garage. And then there's another door to the backyard over there. You've got pull down stairs, but. So this has been a one owner house. Oh, I turned off the wrong light. This has been a one owner house, and like I said, they get the carpets cleaned every year, and they're still really cushy. They just had everything repainted after they moved out. So this is your second suite, and then you've got a guest bathroom and 2 more bedrooms. So a really good size. Fans are in all the rooms. Closets, you have a linen closet here. Another good sized bedroom. The closet and fan. And then this is probably the biggest of all the guest bedrooms. And like I said, it does have its own attached bathroom with a skylight. So you've got a lot of options in all of these HOAs. There's not too many crazy rules here as well. They did actually used to have a formal HOA where you did have to pay your dues as a homeowner. That has since gone away, and like I said, now it's just the optional one. So here is the access point for the optional HOA at Robledal Estates. So you've got porta potty, covered area. Your boat launch is over that way. And they've got a little nature trail over here. It says certified wildlife habitat. This property provides the 4 basic habitat elements needed for wildlife to thrive: food, water, cover, and places to raise young. That's pretty cool. So is this something that I personally would pay for? We don't have a boat, so probably not. If we did, I would just ask some of the people that are in the HOA that use this, what it's like, what the people are like that are in it, before I paid the almost $450 a month or a year to be a part of it. But it would be a good way to meet your neighbors too, and get to meet some new people if you are new to the area. So, I don't know, I'm 50-50 on it. You didn't ask me, but there's my opinion. So there are a lot more HOAs here in Navarre. It's actually kind of, I don't want to say surprising, but there's more HOAs than you would think. Just driving down little streets here and there, you would think that maybe that street doesn't have an HOA, but in fact they do. So just something to keep in mind when you're looking for that forever home. I've not seen too many crazy, rules when I'm going around, looking at homes and things with my clients. For the most part, the HOA dues are all pretty, in line with what you get. Holley By The Sea, it's only $505 and you're getting all of those amenities. One of the ones that I used to live in, Parker Place, the dues were only, I want to say like 150 or something like that. And it was really just to make sure that all of those 150 or so homes kind of kept up with their property and maintained their yard and stuff like that. So you've kind of, it kind of runs the gamut. There are a couple HOAs that are a little bit more expensive than Holley By The Sea because they might have a gate or it might be a smaller community, but they still have a ton of amenities. So, but for the most part, it's not going to be anything like, $6,000 for the year or anything like that. So I do think that in Navarre, our HOA dues are, cost effective, I guess you could say, for what you're getting for the most part. But over the years, I have seen a couple, in my opinion, a little bit more strict than rules with HOAs that are a little bit more strict than you would think. So one of the ones, they are with townhomes, so keep that in mind, but you can only have 1 dog. Actually, I should say 1 dog or 1 cat. So to me, it's a little bit restrictive, especially if you had, because I had a client that had 2 Yorkies and she couldn't buy there because she's got 2 dogs and they only allowed 1. So something like that to me is a little bit restrictive. And I've only seen it once so far. But other things would be, A lot of the HOAs are starting to crack down on having short-term rentals in their community. I think we're going to start seeing that a lot more in the future, just because, like we talked about with the pros and cons of things, making your neighbors angrier and those kinds of things. So having an HOA that does not allow short-term rentals, especially if most of the neighborhood is primary owners, it does take your neighbors off a little bit. If you're the one with a short-term rental and they have a party, or they're just super loud, or they don't keep in mind that there's people sleeping and not on vacation, having to work the next morning. So I think we're going to see that a lot more in the next coming, months to years of HOAs cracking down on short-term rentals. So another thing that I've seen as far as a more strict rule has been what type of fence you can have. Parts of Holley by the Sea that are on the golf course, you can only have those like black wrought iron fence or like a waist-high picket style fence. And it's just because it goes along with their aesthetic of what they want to see. So again, that might be stricter than what you want. So like for my family, those kinds of fences would not work for us because our schnauzer would just run right through it. So those kinds of things, like I said, it's a little bit more strict. So you just have to kind of know like where you're purchasing and what the rules are. Other rules I've seen that are not necessarily super strict, but just things to keep in mind is sometimes they don't allow basketball hoops along the street. So you might be like, cool, I don't want to have to park around that. But if you've got little kids and you want them to have, you live in a cul-de-sac. So that was actually in our neighborhood. We weren't actually allowed to have basketball hoops, even if they were removable along the street, even if we were in a cul-de-sac. So that was one thing we learned the hard way on. And then other things would be like what color your house can be. Like I said, we already talked about the fencing styles, things like that. But even front doors, some places don't allow, like they have to be the solid door. You can't have the glass, or some of them you have to have a glass and not a solid. So just things like that. Just kind of, like I said, make sure when you are purchasing a house, you're reading through all of the rules and regs, the declaration, like all that good stuff, so that you know what to expect. So while HOAs keep things neat and tidy, sometimes it can feel like you're living in a house with very strict parents. So whether it's worth it to you or not kind of depends on whether you like structure versus freedom, rules versus being able to do whatever you want. So if you want to keep learning about Navarre and the surrounding areas, hit that subscribe button, then ring that bell so that you get notified anytime I drop another video, and then you can learn more about Navarre and why I love calling it home.